Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're very pleased to have you here with us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to join us. My name is Elisa Sklar. I am the Vice President of Marketing for GIS Planning, which is part of the FT Specialist Group, part of the Financial Times. I'm happy to be here today with my colleague, Juan Barrios. Hello, Juan. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. How are you?
And so with that, what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes just talking about the power of data and how we actually work this through GIS planning and how that's part of the FT specialist group. So one of the things that we have learned in the 20 years we've been doing this in North America is that investment promotion strategies are most effective when they're based on data. And part of this is because it helps you really determine your value proposition for your region, to understand what your strengths are when it comes to data about your workforce, about industry sectors that you have, about other advantages that you have that you can show through GIS data, for example, ports or airports or transportation, for example. Other kinds of data that we've seen our clients use very effectively is listings of current businesses when that's available. And of course, that will depend country by country on the data we can access to determine what kind of investment you're trying to attract to your country or your city or your region, what your workforce or talent pool strengths and weaknesses actually are, and what kinds of commercial sites and buildings inventory do you have? Are there many sites and buildings available for potential investors? Are we talking about properties that people can lease or buy or rent, or are we talking about land that they can develop and build upon? And also to understand how global industry and economic trends are likely to impact your community, to understand what national trends are and regional trends are within your country as well. So to really get a sense of those things makes it possible to craft that strategy as effectively as possible. Now, the other thing that we've learned is that disorganized data is very, very ineffective when it comes to investment promotion. And one of the things that we do at GIS Planning is to help organize the data that is available for your country or your region in a way that investors, potential investors, and businesses making location decisions can access that data, drill down into it, and analyze it so that they're better positioned to decide whether or not your region, your location is a good fit for them. And the other thing that we always try and point out to our clients is that old data is useless data. So trying to source and then use in an organized way the most up-to-date or freshest data possible is really critical, because investors making decisions that could be millions and millions of dollars or whatever currency you're using in your country, you understand that, of course, they need to have access to the freshest possible data in order to make sense of that. The other thing that we've learned from years of market research data with businesses and site selectors and investors making location decisions is that they are researching their locations online. They're going onto the website for your investment promotion agency and looking to understand things about your region, about the talent and workforce and industry sectors. And they're doing this before you know that they're there. And they do this before they contact you by email or by telephone in order to get more information. So it's really critical to have this investment data as much as we can get in an organized, analyzable way on your website, because that's where they're making their initial impressions about your region or your country or your city. The other thing that we have learned is that lists of text and numbers are very hard to read. They're very boring, they're hard to absorb, they're hard to remember. We really want to put that data in a visual format as much as possible so that people can really understand it better. And that's why we use the tools that we're going to be showing you are really about showing, not just telling. This is about storytelling, telling the story of your region, your location. You want to be able to attract their attention with compelling visuals on your website. You want to then be able to use those visuals in your marketing, in newsletters, on social media, in trade show presentations, responses to proposals, to use these in effective ways. So the example on the screen of the infographics that organize data in beautiful ways, of heat maps that help us layer the data in a visual way across your geography so they can understand how things are dispersed, to tell the story of your location. This, of course, is very engaging, but it also is more likely to improve the connection they can make with your area and to help them remember it. And this, of course, is so useful when it comes to marketing outreach. Static data is another thing that we have learned tends to be very ineffective. We want to make sure that, first of all, they can't drill down and analyze it. And that is really one of the most important things that we have seen, that they need to be able to go down and do that. So if you're just presenting data in PDFs, that really is can be problematic because we want to be able to show it. So data that is dynamic is quite critical. And that's why in the data tools that we're going to be showing you, it's possible to research, to analyze, and to drill down into the data itself, to select things on maps and move things around to understand as much as possible. And of course, this depends very much on the data that is available for your location, what we can build in there to make that much more interactive. And of course, we want to think about sharing your data. How can you then take the data and let them use it, investors, so that they can share it with others in their office or people who are actually making decisions? So all of the data that we host on our tools, it is possible to share on social media, by email. There are customized links. So if you generate a beautiful report or a map that layers different kinds of data on there, we will generate a link for you that you can put in email and reports, in PowerPoint decks, on social media, in your newsletters, in business cases, and certainly at trade shows as well. We want to make this as usable as possible. The other thing that we have learned is that data needs to be easy to find on your website. And too often the data gets buried in pages down. It's very difficult for people to navigate on the website itself. It should not feel like a treasure hunt or a scavenger hunt. We want to make sure that it is very clear. This is an example of a microsite that we built for the state of New York, where we put all of our data tools front and center, easy to find. You can learn about demographics, about business. You can do comparisons across the United States. There's all sorts of information about labor force, consumer spending. Of course, this does depend on the data that might be available for your region, but that really makes it much easier to find, and we don't need to worry so much then about that treasure hunt feeling. So really making data as easy to use as possible is key when it comes to investment attraction. If you're not going to be putting that data out there, it's really most effective if they can use it in these different kinds of ways. And so just to kind of recap before I turn this over to Juan, data should be used strategically. It should be well organized on your website. It should be up to date, the freshest data as possible. It should be organized in visual ways and not just in long lists of text or Excel spreadsheets or static PDFs. It should be dynamic so they can interact with it and research it, drill down into it. It should be easy to share, and it certainly should be easy to find as well. And of course, it needs to be easy to use. So at this point, what I'm going to do is pass this over to my colleague Juan, and he is going to be able to show you a little bit more about the particular data tools that we're talking about today. Got your screen up? Is everything okay, Juan, on that side?
Oh, can you give me the
Make you
control,
present
please, if you
again?
don't
Sure.
mind? Can you? Okay, sure.
Yep, you should actually, you are the presenter right now.
Okay, 1 second.
I can switch that back to me and send it to you again if you want.
That will be great. Thanks.
Okay, let's have a look at that. So I'm going to just take it back for a moment, and then I'll send this back over to you. There you go. All right, let's see if you're able to grab that. There we go, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, hi everyone. It's a pleasure for me being here, and I will first walk you through what we do at FDI Intelligence, just to give you an overview of how we can basically work together. So FDI Intelligence, okay, is a set of information and services and technologies now with GIS as part of what we do that helps you attract and drive more investment to your regions. So we're very excited to have now all the tools available for all of the Americas and Latin America, especially in Spain and here in Europe. Probably most of you are familiar with FDI Markets, okay, which is basically the leading tracking system for all the FDI projects worldwide. And so it gives you really accurate information on basically what are the companies which are investing and also the latest trends on FDI projects, together with the intel on any sort of intention to invest anywhere on the world. This is the way it looks like, in case you've never seen it. And the second tool was FDI, well, it is FDI Benchmark, which is, it helps you create a competitive analysis and between cities, region, countries, etc. So it will help you to create your own business case and drive more investment. This is how it looks, FDI Benchmark. And the technology GIS Planning is the one we're basically focusing on today. Basically, is that you digitally showcase all of what you have, what you need to offer to the world as a great destination or location to invest. And more importantly, you will have that visibility of who or which company is looking at you online before they make even the first approach to you. So this is how we're gonna, it's gonna look like. I'm gonna show you specifically some cases today, and here my contact details in case you would like to have, to make any question or follow up with me directly. So now, straight to the point, I will explain two of the most relevant cases that we've been working on through the years. One is the system that was created for Michigan, okay, and also I'm gonna mention a little bit of the case we created for Murcia, the region in Spain, together with the Derby region in the UK. So let me start with Michigan. So what Michigan is doing is basically, as Alisa mentioned, they wanted to build this smart, compelling, and attractive system which will show pivotal information about how or about them, and that will make an investor to put even more attention and will be more encouraged to make a final decision, and invest in Michigan. So they basically wanted to include all of these elements that you see on the website, okay? And but they did make a huge effort together with us to make this information, really appealing, really interactive. So you can see at the community profile here, and this community profile gives you sort of a high level, but also you go into details in terms of data, and nothing is like static. So everything is basically interactive. So it will also go into different. I had to say this before, into different levels depending on where in Michigan I would like to invest, or if I'm comparing different communities within Michigan. Something else which is really important they wanted to have is information about demographics. So as you can see here, the information is again interactive, is up to date, and depending on the specific area that I'm looking at, I will generate a heat map, and it was going to give me the insights about that precise city or area within Michigan that I'm looking at. You see all the variables there, and also all this key information that will be essential for my assessment as a site selector. Together with also the demographic information, one of the most powerful things that is always very welcome by any investor is when you as a organization or you as a government, you are transparent on showing all your businesses on a street level. In this case, for instance, if we analyze the city of Detroit, I wanted to see all the clusters related to automotive and or maybe the education. So right after I click in any of them, I will generate this visual, okay, and where I can also go on a street level and see what are the details of this specific sort of business, okay, and then you can basically also see it in more from an industry perspective, and then you can generate that information right away. So it's very engaging and compelling for any visitor. And by the way, all this information is public. Anyone can see that, so you can have that easily for any assessment. So that is a very powerful part of the things they would like they wanted to show. But again, you can use the system, or you can use that information that you probably already have somewhere in your records, and then show it to the people, show it to the right people. And what they wanted to also showcase is like different areas of interest, or in this case, for instance, all the opportunity zones. I know cases where they would like to show incubators, or golf areas, or recreational areas. So everything can be embedded in this interactive map. And as Elisa said, I can easily share this on a private email or on LinkedIn, etc. Something really, really powerful that always call my attention, and I say, okay, this is for any potential investor. This should be really beneficial. If I would like to compare, any of the cities I'm assessing, and then in this case, I'm comparing, for instance, Michigan with, Alabama. I don't know. I will have right away that information that will help me make the accurate decision. So as you can see here, it's generated automatically. And if this is a matter of, which is the city that is offering me, or the community offering me the best for my business, I will have the answer, right in front of my eyes. And finally, one of the biggest factors, as you all know, I believe, when it comes to choosing the right place to invest, is the talents that you offer as a community, as a state, as a country. In this case, you can also showcase all the programs at top universities that they are there to basically build skills. And this is, in this case of Michigan, they wanted to have that advantage of showing that to investors. And as you can see, you can even go into specific details of the bachelor degrees they offering, and the type of subjects that they also facilitating in every institution. So as you can see, they have so many, we call them intelligence components, that depending on the type of site selector, of the type of potential investor, they will go and spend more time in specific sort of areas, And so that makes it really, really compelling. The second case I wanted to highlight and or to show you is they are, communities that they are also interested in showing all the available properties that they have. And for this case, I wanted to, show you the case of Murcia and also the case of Derby in the UK, where they use this technology basically to facilitate that decision-making process for any of the visitors to there, or any person trying to invest in the region. And the way they work is the following: you kind of look for a property. Okay, it could be an office, it could be land, etc. And then based on that finding, you analyze, okay, what is in the surrounding in terms of labor force. Here is in Spanish, by the way. I can switch it to English, or in case of our Brazilian attendees, you can build this in Portuguese, where you analyze what is around, because sometimes they have no idea, uh, about Murcia, or they don't have any idea of what is to invest within Brazil or Mexico. So this tool basically will give them that sort of security to analyze all of the content in terms of labor force, demographic data that you can generate in a click, as simple as that. And then empresas is basically what we see in terms of all the industries. And actually, to show you this, I will jump to a different property, because you will be able to see all the clusters, or any sort of the composition of your economy in a specific sort of region. So you will be able to see what it is like, what it means to open, for instance, any business with all the surroundings, making sure that all the surroundings will contribute to your basically distribution channels. So around this building, you will see in detail, all the surrounding businesses. So it will help me to plan that workflow that I would like to implement in that specific area. And again, talento is basically, how skilled are the people around this area, or the programs offered within that area, that will basically give me that reassurance on why to invest within my region. And then similar cases, what we built for Derby UK, and so Derby UK is exactly the same sort of logic or rationale that they wanted to have. So by offering all this, well-structured, relevant information, what they're doing is just inviting that company that is not 100% sure of investing, to see and to provide those insights and make the final decision to invest, in this case, within the Derby region, and select the right sort of property, a property that will work out for them. So this is when I'm showing you all of this. Anyone can create, for instance, a compelling system, but what is different, or on this sort of let's say intelligence information that you are presenting, is basically the use of information that internally, okay, for instance, coming back to the Michigan case, if they are tracking every sort of, let's say, step that a company is making through all the system, so they have visibility to what they are, looking at. And what happens is that if the system is very well created, you will have a report, hopefully, by the end of a year, the year, not the year, sorry, but the end of the month, or a weekly report, when you have that information available for you, and to get in touch with that company, so you add that human touch, and you help that opportunity to develop, and hopefully to drive that investment and create more job within each one of your regions or communities, cities, etc. So having said that, it was my pleasure presenting all of this content. There are so many examples of great, let's say, practices that we've seen across the US, Europe, and well, we're expecting many of this great system to be available across Latin America and the Caribbean. So if there's any question, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much for showing us how the system works, Juan. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to remind you all that you can put your questions about the things we've discussed here in the right-hand side of your screen, the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions field. We have had some questions come in. The first question is, do we use a base of Google Maps for this sort of map-related visuals, or do we need other forms of maps? So that's an excellent question. Thank you for letting us know. So what we bring to the tool at GIS Planning is that we provide all of the mapping information. We do use Google Maps. We've found it to be the most reliable for this kind of tool. There's so much additional features and functionality you get with Google Maps. So we take care of all of that for you. The map is built for you. And you'll notice that we can, because it's Google Maps, there's going to be 3D. You can drop the pin on the map and get street view imagery. And there's, depending on how granular and detailed it is for your region, that mapping is something that we provide for you. And another question is, for comparative data sets, do we need to have the base information, or is that from FDI intelligence? And so I think, Juan, maybe it's a good idea to just remind people that with the data tool, the Zoom Prospector data tool that Juan was showing you, we will do the research through the FT specialist group to find the data available for your country, for your region, for your city. And we will bring that data to this as part of the GIS planning tool. If you have any local data, often we have clients, as you know, I think we saw some examples here from Michigan, they had a lot of data that they had collected locally as well. We are happy to build that into the tool for you. So examples of local data might be specific tax incentive data. Sometimes we have other data. Someone wanted to map recent investment success stories in their region. We're happy to build that into the tool. Someone else, the city of Montreal in Canada, wanted to build in a map of all the big major projects, development projects across their region, and that was something that we could build in for them. In terms of comparative data and additional information from FDI Intelligence, if you are currently a customer for FDI Intelligence, we are working now on integrating some of the data from the FDI tool into the GIS planning tool as well. That's something that we're going to be debuting in Florida in the next week or two. And that means that you would be able to track greenfield projects into the area on a country by country basis, if that's something that you'd like to show. Is there anything else you'd like to add about that one in terms of the data?
I think the answer was very complete. Thank you for that.
Okay, and then Santiago asks us if we have any examples from Latin American cities. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Yes. We do not yet have anything live in Latin America. This is the very, very first time that we're presenting this to Latin American countries and cities. I know that Juan has been at conferences and spoken with some. We have, GIS Planning was for 20 years a North American company. We moved into Canada 8 years ago. 2 years ago, GIS Planning became part of the Financial Times Group. And that was the point at which we could suddenly take the tool across the world. And because we need to source the data on a country by country basis, depending on your data sources, whether there's census data, all of that requires research. The Financial Times has enabled us to do that kind of expansion. In the 2 years since we were acquired, we have moved across Europe. So we have implementations in the United Kingdom, in Spain, in Sweden, in France, in Switzerland. And now we're trying to take this technology into Latin America. So unfortunately, we don't have anything yet to show you. But on the other side, this is an opportunity for you to be first out of the gate, if that's something that you're interested in doing. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add about that one, and I invite, of course,
Yeah,
any questions.
that is correct. So basically, the technology is now available in Latin America. We, as you said, this is very recent that we're making sort of, this sort of announcements or communication, or there are many countries already interested in adopting this technology, because this is the way to move forward, and most of the cases, these sort of technologies, not only the GIS planning technology, but there's always a big trend on becoming more digital, and I think we will see more of hopefully in the next few months I will be able to show you a couple of or a few examples of systems built for Latin American cities or countries.
Excellent. Yeah. So this is really brand new. We're really excited to be able to take the technology into Latin America. This is at this point, I think we have 100% of Canadians live in territories that are serviced by our technology. In the United States, we now are represented. 27 out of the 50 statewide economic development organizations use our tools. We're in 17,000 communities across the US. More than 66% of Americans live in territories serviced by our tools. So we really are the industry's leading technology in North America, and we're very excited to be able to now bring this into Latin America so that you can use this tool for investment promotion in those areas. Now, I don't see any other questions that have come through. So I think what we might do, one, is we will let people know once again that we have recorded this session. We will be sending you an email within the next day with a link to the video. You will have contact information for Juan in the email, so please reach out if you have any questions. We'd be very happy to answer. We can also do a customized online meeting with you where we do answer your questions and show you how the tool might work for your location. Anything else that you wanted to add, Juan? Maybe you could put your contact information up on the screen if you have it, so that
Sure.
people also can reach out to you in that way. You can always reach out to Juan individually, but you will hear from us within the next day. We thank you all very, very much for taking time out of your busy days to join us. Thank you, Juan, for your demo and
Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.